Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to put in door hinges. I'm actually going to put in one hinge because once you put in one, you can put in the other two. However, there's a few things we'll go over before we get started. The first thing is how to determine the radius of a hinge, and there's two ways to do that. One of the ways is you can take a quarter and you put it up in the corner of the radius at the hinge point. So at that radius right there, if a quarter fits and it matches your radius, then it is a 5/8 radius. On the other hand, if you have a 1/4 inch radius hinge, you can take a dime and put the dime up there in the corner. And you see that the dime does not cover the entire radius like the quarter. So with it being a dime, using a dime, the radius is going to be a 1/4 inch, and if you use a quarter and put in there, it's going to be a 5/8 inch door hinge. So there's several types of hinges. Like I said, you have the 5/8 hinge radius, which is what I have, or you have a 1/4 inch radius hinge, which I do not have. There is another hinge, which is a square type, so it will have a 90 degree turn. And when you use those hinges are a little bit different. So they're not really used for interior doors because they're not decorative. The ones I'm replacing is this brass color here, and I'm replacing with a black hinge. And you got to make sure that when you're replacing hinges, the pin right here at the top, that's the part that needs to show, the flat spot. On the bottom of this hinge, there is a hole, and it shows the bottom of the pin. So if you need to take the door off for whatever reason and you do not need to remove these hinges, you just take a screwdriver or a punch tool into the bottom, take a hammer, hit it, and it will pop that up. It will pop up to the point where you can actually pull it out with your fingers here, and you're done. This hinge, this outside part of the hinge will come off just like the rest of them, and you can take the door off without removing the hinge. So another thing that we'll do today is we'll replace the middle hinge. The reason I replace the middle hinge first is because I don't want the door to sag. So if I take off my top hinge and I just have these two on the bottom, the door will sort of tilt outward. And we do not want that to happen. If I take off the bottom hinge, the door will tilt inward. And so it's sort of, if I've got this hinge, and we'll use this as the example here. So here's my door, and my hinges are going to be here. If I take off my top hinge, it leans out, okay? If I take off the middle hinge, the door will stay because it's still carried by two hinges at the top. If I take off that bottom hinge, the bottom of the door wants to turn in. So if I take off the top wants to come out. If I take off the middle, the door's stable. If I take off the bottom hinge, the door wants to lean in as well. So if you take off the top and the bottom, both of those hinges will make that door bottom lean in. So we're going to replace the middle, so I have 2 points of contact with the door, one being the top and the other one being down at the bottom. So we're going to replace it. I have new screws. They're black screws. They fit exactly the same as these ones here, this brass colored ones. And my hinge, how I determine my hinge is I put my hinge up to it and my hinge will fit perfect. So I know that it's a 5/8 hinge. If I'd have bought some at the store that had a little bit tighter of a turn, then I knew that would be a 1/4 inch. Now, will a 1/4 inch fit in a 5/8 hinge set, like into the door casing in the door? They will, but what happens is it makes your screw holes move that are already preset by the ones you've already done before. So you'd end up having to drill more screws in a different area, which would do what? It'll weaken the door case, because now I've got some holes in here, and we don't want to take a chance if you put heavy stuff on the door. Like on our door, this right here is a pantry door. So on the outside of this door here that you can't see, This door right here has spice racks on it. So it has one up here, one in the middle, and a couple up at the top. They're not very heavy. I mean, it's oregano and stuff like that, the bay leaves. So it's not that heavy. But had you want to put something from the top of the door all the way down, then that door is going to be heavy from the top to the bottom. So that's why now other people may do it different. There may be some builders who say it otherwise, but however, I like to take the middle hinge off first. That way I have 2 contact points up on the top of the door, down on the bottom of the door, and then when I go through the replacing the rest of these, I'm going to do the middle one first, then I'll go up and do the top, so I still have 2 contact points. Then I'll come down and do the bottom. You always want to have 2 contact points on this door. If you don't, the door will sag and it'll move in. And it won't sag as far as tearing it up. It just makes it harder for you at doing it one person by yourself to align the door. So we're not going to mess up our door. It's not going to fall off and hit you in the head or anything like that, as long as you got two contact points. And a lot of it depends on how heavy the door is and what you have on the door. So we're not going to worry about that, because ours is a spice rack for a little pantry door, and we're going to have those 2 contact points. So now we got the screws, and I got the rest of my hinges, and we're going to install this middle hinge. Like I said, the process is going to go pretty quick. And when you take off your door hinge, you want to look at the old hinge and look at the wear marks on it and see where the door is wearing at. This one right here, on the inside of that, there's some dust marks, and that is where I have put graphite in my door pin, where it goes down into this hinge. The reason I do that, it stops the friction, stops the squeaking. Other people can use WD-40 or any other kind of, rust protection sprays. It'll take the squeaks out, and that's what we're all about. Nobody likes a squeaky door. So we'll get my drill, and we will take out this hinge and go from there. And then after I get this one done here, of course, I'll just do the rest of them off camera, because once you've done one hinge, you've done the rest of them. And here again, like I said, these videos are for people who have never installed a door hinge, or like my other videos, a door locks and door handles, doorknobs, simple stuff like that. So I hope you enjoy what we're getting ready to do. And if you do, like it and comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out. Like I said, I do this for enjoyment. And let's get this hinge put in here. Here we go. And these screws, by the way, they're only 3/4 inch screws, so they're not very long. You don't have to, when you replace your door hinges, they will come with a pack of screws. And each door takes 12 screws. As you can see, it's 6 per hinge. I'm sorry. Yeah, 6 per hinge. So that's 6, 12, 18. Sorry about that. So now I have got all the screws out, pull the hinge out, and my door is still stable. I can open and close this door, work it, do everything that I need to do, and only have 2 hinges in the door. But does it make it weaker? Yes, it makes it weaker, and that's not what we're trying to do, is have a weak door. So now I got my pin. It's up here at the very top. We're going to put it back into the spot, and you see that it fits into that spot. And I can go to my holes right there. My holes line up. And we'll put this first one in here, and I don't have to do anything to the door. The 2 door points that I said, the upper and the lower hinge, they're doing their job. They're keeping my door straight. And so all I do is screw in that. I don't go all the way with it. And here on the bottom, I'll put my screw in right here on the bottom, and we'll put that in. And there's my other hole. put in the third one. Now we're going to come to the hinge part that's on the door. Get the screws. Now I put my middle one in first, and what it did is it pulled the door in line with my other two holes. So now that's going to make it easier to install that part of the door, or the screw. And there we go. So we have just installed our door hinge. And so I inspect this hinge right here. These are original hinges that come with this house and on that door. You can see on the back, the paint was still a little bit wet when they put that in there. So now that was on the back of my hinge. But anyway, I spec the hinge. I look to see if there's any tears. Right in here along these little points where the metal has been cut from the factory. I don't see any tears, so I know the door's not been too heavy. Here's the little graphite marks where I've put graphite, which is lead, powdered lead, like using a number 2 pencil. Put that in there, and I've got it on both sides, and my hinge still works just fine. I've had this door off a couple times adjusting the wood on the door, because the door over time your house will settle. And so what my door did is it made a couple little places on the floor where it dragged. So we didn't want to have that happen. But anyway, all right, so we've got that door hinge in, and we'll do a quick recap. This hinge here is a 5/8 radius. My quarter fits up there in the corner, takes that away. If you find that you have a 1/4 inch radius hinge, you would put a diamond there, and it would cover this entire radius right here. So since mine are 5/8, 1/4 covers mine. Mine are rounded, radius rounded, okay? The ones that are squared, they would be off at a 90-degree turn. And like I said, those are more likely, those are used for, you know, outside projects or, you know, different doors. The heavier the door, the thicker the door, the more hinges. So this door is not as thick. It's a 1.5, so it only requires 3 hinges. If it were a 2-inch, 3-inch door, the hinges would have to be like 5-inch hinges. These right here are 3.5 inch. So if I had a bigger door, a heavier door, I will need to go to a 5-inch hinge, and it would have 4 of these screw holes. So since my door does not, and it's a pantry door, it is a hollow core door, or hollow core door, which means there's really nothing inside of it. You can, matter of fact, I can take my thumb and my first finger and mash along this door and actually mash it. So anyway, all right, off camera here, I'm gonna go ahead and replace these other 2 hinges. Hope you like this video. I know it's a little bit longer, but it's very good to note the hinge radiuses and how many screws, the door size, and how I do it. Like I said, I always take the middle one off first. So I have 2 points up and down, and then I'll go and I'll replace my top hinge, and then I'll replace the bottom hinge, and then we're done. So hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, if you did, like it. If you didn't, hey, that's okay too. Like I said, this is how I do it. I'm not the professional in it. This is DIY stuff, and just replacing little things in your house. And these, believe it or not, door hinges and door handles and door knobs, that can all spruce up the interior. So I appreciate you guys watching. Enjoy it, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks.